Good afternoon and welcome to our daily devotion. I know it's late getting it out today, but I had to have a quiet moment to do today's devotion. I hope you all have had a good Friday. I'm getting ready to head to church in just a few minutes for our Good Friday service. But yesterday I asked you to think about who is it that you want. And today, the Jewish day started at 7 p.m. at night. So they had their Last Supper on Thursday night. Started at 7. That's when they would have had their Passover feast. And then the night, the day went on into Friday. And, but it would have been the same day for them. And then, Jesus went to the garden to pray. And, so I want to pick up with a scripture from John 18, 1 through 11. When he has finished praying, Jesus left with his disciples and crossed the Kidron Valley. On the other side there was a garden, and he and his disciples went into it. Now Judas, who betrayed him, knew the place, because Jesus had often met there with his disciples. So Judas came to the garden, guiding a detachment of soldiers and some officials from the chief priests and the Pharisees. They were carrying torches, lanterns, and weapons. Jesus, knowing all that was going to happen to him, went out and asked them, "Who is it that you want?" "Jesus of Nazareth," they replied. "I am he," Jesus said. And Judas the traitor was standing there with them. When Jesus said, "I am he," they drew back and fell to the ground. Again he asked them, "Who is it that you want?" "Jesus of Nazareth," they said. Jesus answered, "I told you I am he. If you are looking for me, then let these men go." This happened so that the words he spoken would be fulfilled. "I have not lost one of those you gave me." Then Simon Peter, who had a sword, drew it and struck the high priest's servant, cutting off his right ear. The servant's name was Malchus. Jesus commanded Peter, "Put your sword away. Shall I not drink the cup the Father has given me?" John wrote all the details from what happened from a different perspective than some of the other disciples did. But there is something here that grabs you, or it grabs me. And I'm reading from some notes from a visiting pastor we had, Pastor Jonathan Bowman. And he preached our service this past Sunday. And I have to say, I was just gripped. My heart was gripped for this. And I talked to him after the service, and he gave me permission to use this. I mean, of course, he said, yes, of course. And so, I have notes here. But John intended to grip us with this. That's why he names Malchus here, even though the scene with Malchus is so incredible embarrassing to Christians. Historians say it's because Malchus would have been able to personally verify, what happened to him and Jesus healing him, and people would go to him and they would hear it firsthand. And of course, they would have. I would have, who wouldn't want to see, you got your ear cut off and all of a sudden this man stoops up and puts it back on and it's healed. But what John writes about this whole scene is quite graphic and quite to the point, literally. I mean, there's a reason he wants us to know this little information here. And you would wonder, at least, you would think in your mind, at least Peter didn't try to kill him. He was just going to wound him. But, or if you were a sarcastic person, you might want to say, "Nice miss, Peter. Nice going. You couldn't even kill the guy. You just whacked his ear off." But the fact of the matter, Peter was going for the jugular, but he caught an ear. And you can't look away because you have no idea what Peter was trying to actually pull off. But then again, maybe we do. And maybe that's why we can't look away. because we get this too well, and no matter how hard we try to convince ourselves we're fundamentally different, we still get Peter. Why he acted that way when the whole world was coming out against him. Why when, maybe about 1,000 heavily armed guys start traipsing towards him with thousands of torches and the sounds of swords hitting armor, 1,000 sides of men, had him feeling that's why he had to act. But why, after so thoroughly embarrassing himself by deserting his most honored hitting the snooze button in the garden thing, wouldn't he feel the need to redeem himself? And I think that's what Peter was trying to do. Peter was trying to redeem himself, to make himself better, to more honorable, more trustworthy, more truthful. And the fact of the matter is, I think he was trying to fight to prove himself to God. And how often do we fight to prove ourselves to God? I think that's what at least John thinks. And more what Jesus thinks. You can see it in the way that John writes to tell us that that's what Jesus thinks. John paces past Judas' kiss, and he sprints past the blood Jesus sweat in Gethsemane, because John has to get us to the question Jesus has for all of us. The question Jesus peppers us with, even interrogates us with. That's something that you see here. I think sometimes we have misconceptions about how Jesus' arrest and trial really went down. Like Jesus was getting interrogated, but really he was the one doing the questioning. He interrogated his subjects by asking them, who is it that you want? And you have to see something in that question. That question is supposed to work on more than one level. You have to see that. There is a reason why Jesus repeats the question, even though the question immediately gets answered, because the question is supposed to put you on trial, to interrogate you. That's what you have to understand about this question. The recording of this question isn't simply John's way of reporting to us the results of the search party, that this ancient SWAT team had found their fugitive. John is up to something much bigger. He's showing you in the essence that Jesus is asking this of the entire world. That's why John makes sure that we know the world is fully represented here. There are religious people here and non-religious people here. There are Roman soldiers here, temple guards here, and there are Jews here and Gentiles here. Because John wants you to understand that the entire world is getting asked by its maker, Jesus, who is it that you want? That's a dangerous question. Really, it is. If you will it in your heart, if you lay low, if you're honest with it, it'll chop you all the way down to the ground. Because let me tell you what, it hit me to the ground. Because it shows you the darkness. The darkness that made those men march on Jesus, the healer. The darkness that makes religious authorities hate him, the forgiver. The darkness that would bring 1,000 swords and 1,000 soldiers at him, the ultimate good. The true darkness of this world that has only one answer to Jesus' great question. Who is it that you want? Who is it that you seek? I'll tell you who I want. I'll tell you who I seek. I seek me. I want to feel good about myself, successful, proud, beautiful, employable, worthwhile, right, justified. I want that verdict on my life. I seek that, and I'll do anything to get it. I'll be a soldier who arrests an innocent healer, a profound teacher if it means my commanding officer will, make me feel proud of myself. I'll off somebody who's never hurt me and justify it by saying he's blaspheming, if it'll help me to believe I'm moral enough for God. Because that's what I deeply seek. I seek myself. I'll use whatever I have in my life to justify myself. I'll take up the sword to show Jesus how faithful I am. I'll take up a tweet to stab somebody on Twitter so I can feel smarter than them. I'll beat someone in sports so I can feel faster or more powerful than them. I'll give more money so I can feel more generous than them. I'll criticize so that I can feel better than them. I'll criticize so I can feel like the better parent than them. I'll study hard so I can have better grades than them. I'll wear better clothes so I can feel more attractive. I'll do whatever it takes. I'll pray more, church more, love more, because that's what I seek. To somehow quiet the inner unrest, the condemning voice we all have inside that says, you're not good at all. The verdict is coming. That's the fight we all are in this life. That's the fight we always call for the next chance to drown out the verdict you already feel inside. The deep fear and the deep knowledge that God's final word on your life will be disapproval. That condemnation is looming. And John absolutely insists that you just see how right you are about that. 3 times John makes that clear. 3. Ego eimi, or if you prefer the English, 3 times he has you hear Jesus quietly say, I am. Because that is exactly who Jesus is. He is. And you know who that is? Ego eimi is a translation of the Old Testament name for God, the Lord. And you know what the Lord means? It's simply a verb to be in Hebrew. He is. Jesus is saying really he is God. He is the God who has no conditions attached to his existence. He is both the ground of all reality and the creator of it. The God who himself is pure glory and pure love and pure community. The God who is pure faithfulness and consistency itself. The God who is everything. The God who in no way be qualified. All because he is all that. Because he is nothing less than all of what when he has verbalized his identity. When he lets loose just one tiny beam of his glory, we're told in the micronism, the people drew back and fell to the ground. Because God's beauty has to reveal our ugly. And God's love has to destroy our self-seeking. And God's holy has to burn our sin. And God's purity has to incinerate our impurity. It has to. We can only draw back and fall to the ground, condemned before it. And Jesus insists that you know that. Actually, John insisted you know that by this writing. But Jesus wants us to know that. And you know why? So that you can begin to answer your life's greatest question Jesus' way. So that you see that when Jesus was interrogating you, asking, who is it that you want? He was only trying to help you listen to the way that he answers the questions, which he immediately does by saying, I am who you want. And he says that not once, but twice. And my friends, there's only one thing that you can do, and you know what it is? Put your sword away. Stop the fight. However you've been choosing to fight, and you can. Through faith, the verdict is already won on your life. You don't have to be immoral enough to get the right verdict. You don't have to be good enough or beautiful enough or smart enough. You don't have to be any of those things. You don't have to be the star athlete or the star whatever. You don't have to be employable. You don't have to be any of those things. All you have to do is have faith. And when Jesus asks you, who is it that you want? You just say, I want you. I want to believe in you. So who are you looking for? Who is it that you want? I can't think of another person that I'd want to be in my life other than Jesus. Because you know what? I fought the fight a long time. And I lost every single time. Because I can't be smart enough, good enough, brave enough, wealthy enough or anything. I can't do any of those things without my Savior by my side. And he takes all the ugliness from my life and he makes it beautiful through the sacrifice that he made today, dying on the cross. He took all our sin, all our ugliness, and died a cruel death that we deserved. But he loved us so much that he took that upon himself. And he died for us. And I love him for that. So it's just a little something to think about. Who is it that you want? Have a blessed weekend and a blessed Easter. God bless you, and I will see you soon. Bye-bye.